So I think, yeah, it's just past 10 o'clock. So first of all, I'd like to give you a very warm welcome to this thought leadership session and taster session for all of our attending company representatives this morning. Yeah, this morning we'll be having a look at, creating the foundation of a robust business growth plan. Yeah, I will be joined by Naomi Timperley, who is an award-winning business growth and innovation expert and has many hats, and she will explain a little bit more about that in a second, about the many ways in which she has supported SMEs and companies over recent years. First of all, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Richard McGuinness. I'm the Business Development Manager for Salford Business School, which is part of the University of Salford. I would just going to go into the next slide. So I'd love to introduce Naomi Timperley, a growth and innovation consultant, co-founder of Tech North Advocates, and also an honorary industry fellow and member of the Industry Advisory Board at the University of Salford. So Naomi, over to you to introduce yourself and explain a little bit more about what you do.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I wear a number of different hats, as you could probably tell. I am a growth and innovation consultant with a consultancy called GSI, which I run with a guy called Vikas Shah, who you may or may not have heard of. Essentially, with GSI, we are supporting businesses that want to scale up, and that might be that they want to get into new markets. It might be that they want to create new products and services, and we help them do that. The other part of what I do, and that's probably about 40 to 50%, is I am working with startups, very early stage startups, generally with university entrepreneurship programs, but also other type of like public sector funded programs, and have been delighted to have been involved with the Help to Grow management program as well over the last year, which has been fantastic.
Thank you, Naomi. So yeah, I guess just give a very brief introduction to Salford Business School. So we are actually located, we have several campuses as a university, and the business school is actually located just maybe half a mile outside of the centre of Manchester, just by Salford Crescent. The university has a very applied and very real world approach when it comes to teaching and learning, and has very strong links with industry. I think this is something that we can very much see, with the alumni that have come out. Part of my job is to go out to meet a lot of companies and speak with them and get them involved and working with the university in many different ways. And it's always lovely to see so many University of Salford graduates that have gone out and become entrepreneurs, started their own businesses, and done lots of wonderful things. So thank you, Naomi, again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And yeah, let's start the discussion. And just a few housekeeping notes before we get kicked off. If you could please just keep your microphones on mute. This is set up as a meeting, so it is possible, I think, for you to unmute yourselves. That would be very much appreciated. And the chat box is open for questions and answers, and we will address them after the discussion. And then following the discussion, I'm going to explain a little bit more about how some of the main themes that go through the discussion are actually linked in to the Help to Grow management program at the end. So yeah. I guess, the first question is, SMEs, as they're scaling up or as they're expanding, they face many different challenges depending on their industry or depending on perhaps the knowledge internally. What are some of the most common challenges that SMEs face as they expand in your eyes?
So just based on, obviously the businesses that I worked with on a day-to-day basis, but also, the businesses that we've had through the program, it's a number of different things. A lot of businesses at the moment are struggling to get talent on board, so that there's the people side of things. It's been very sort of difficult, I think, for some companies to really, focus on, how they want to grow and actually what capabilities they have. So just to give you an example, one of the things that I've noticed really simply is people having a really clear value proposition. So being able to sort of articulate exactly what they do, how they add value to their customers. And on customers, another really big challenge, especially if businesses want to grow, is not only being able to get new customers, but being able to hold on to the ones that they've got and not being dependent too much on perhaps those bigger customers. So client dependence can be a really big problem. So if you've got like all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and then suddenly that client goes from under your eyes, because they've perhaps got they've lost business themselves, or perhaps they have become reliant on something else, or they've lost situations change for them, or they've got a new business that they're working with. And I think just from the people that we've had on the program, there are a number of problems, but I would say the top ones are the growth is people, so staff and customers as well. That's been the key things, I think, for the Help to Grow that we've come across. And
so what would you say, and perhaps this is a bit of a tough one, it's like asking your favorite band, but yeah, what is the most common mistake you see as SMEs make as they put together a business growth plan?
Having clear goals is something that because my involvement has been on the mentoring side of things. So my job is to support the people that go on the program to make sure that they have at the end of the program a really clear growth plan. And it's just having really clear, tangible goals, being held accountable, but also making sure that you involve the whole team. And something again that was very common, a common theme in the cohorts that we've had, has been actually getting everybody on board, because it's not just one person that can decide or do everything. It's a collective.
Okay, perfect. And so just kind of sticking on this point with the business growth plan, and kind of linking it into the strategy, how do you know if the strategy is right for you, the one that you have in place? How do you know if you're going down the right route? How do you know when to make changes and how? Yeah. What's your view on that?
So just a couple of things. I think there's three key principles of any sort of business strategy. That's like goals and priorities, the choices that you make, and then you've also got the continuity. But what I would say, and a very sort of common theme is some of these things that you, especially if you're making quite big changes, is rather than making huge, enormous changes, test it first. So very much, I'm a huge fan of design thinking. So if anyone doesn't know about it, I can share a couple of articles in the chat. So Google Ventures have this design sprint methodology, and what they do is all about testing things first. So making sure that you are involving your customers in these decisions that you're making as well, because you might make an assumption that you're making some changes to your business, and some of these changes may affect your customers. So if they are things that are going to affect your customers, you have to get your customers involved in that. And I think it's just being really, really clear and not trying to take on too many things first, but being, testing first. So testing the assumptions that you have about the things that you think that you should be doing. Another really clear thing actually from the people that we've had over the last cohorts is I have been absolutely gobsmacked about the businesses who have just been, going along and growing slowly, but growing, which is fantastic. Some of them have been surviving, which, I can appreciate over the last 2 years, it's been very, very difficult for lots of people, but they've been completely reliant on word of mouth, which is fantastic. But just putting that little switch on and doing some marketing activity, again, is a key thing that we've seen a lot of the businesses do after they've been on the program. But this is all about testing. Okay, perfect. And so you mentioned a little bit about, over the past few years, it's been difficult for many companies. And so obviously the ability to pivot is kind of paramount in the current global and economic environment. How can a company ensure that they're
structure, their organizational structure remains agile to react to any external or internal kind of influencing factors?
So another thing that I've noticed as well, and this is not just from this program, is a lot of, especially sort of smaller businesses, are completely dependent on a founder. Now, if that is the case, you know, there is a big problem there. So, you know, if for example, and again, we had this over the last 2 years of people, you know, going off sick and stuff like that, and you know, having say a founder who is suddenly out of the picture because of illness or something else, making sure that you've got everything in line so anybody, no matter who's not there, can run with the business. I think that's been another key thing as well. But just I think for me, it's about balancing that sort of quality and growth and making sure that everybody is on side, because again, you can't make the decisions just on your own, because there's going to be certain people within the business that are going to do part of that delivery, or have that responsibility. And I think a lot of people are terrified of change, but unfortunately, as the last 2 years have shown us, is businesses have had to pivot. They've had to literally change overnight. And this is not just, you know, obviously small businesses. You know, I was at a digital transformation event and on a panel last month, and there was a guy there from BT, and obviously BT is an enormous company, and all these other big companies had to almost, well, same thing, being able to go literally overnight, have the capabilities to work from home straight away. And I think the positive thing that has come out of the last 2 years has been that businesses have had to, they've been forced to be agile. They've been forced to digitize things, because if they hadn't digitized it, things haven't been able to work. But I also think, you know, again, going back to testing things and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and what's suitable for your business might not be suitable for another business. So I think it's like taking stock, but making sure that you're including everybody in that growth plan and having that open discussion, and again, making sure that you're including your customers in that discussion as well. And
so just kind of on a point that you mentioned there, you know, of course, as company expands, you know, you're the founder, this is your baby, this is your company. You know, at some point, I guess you have to take a small step back and bring somebody in to support with the operations or whatever side of it is. Are there any tips that you can give there, or, you know, because it must be a difficult one, no?
It is. I think the great thing about the Help to Grow program is not only do you get mentoring one-to-one, but you get peer mentoring. So you are learning from everybody else. It's you know, open discussion about, you know, how other people have perhaps tried things and failed at things, or things that have worked. And I also think that, you know, outside of the program, there is so much support. You know, most businesses don't realise what's on their doorstep. So obviously, you know, universities have lots of knowledge and support. We're really lucky in Greater Manchester that we've got things like the Business Growth Hub, and it's really looking, I would say, at how learning from other people, and the peer mentoring is really, really valuable. And I think, you know, also again, just making sure that actually, because if you go onto LinkedIn, most people just talk about all the positive things, don't they? Oh yeah, our business is fantastic. We've got this new client, we've got these new people, etc. Nobody talks about the bad stuff. And the great thing is about this program is that people do talk about the bad stuff, because you have to learn from your mistakes. People don't like talking about them, but we've all, you know, if you look at like most successful entrepreneurs around the world, most of them, probably 99.9% of them, have had a failure of some sort, or they haven't done something right and they've had to learn from their mistakes. And I think that's a really key thing as well.
And there's just a comment in the chat before we move on to the next question, but, you know, the whole issue around cybersecurity, and I guess, you know, perhaps if one isn't a tech expert, you know, it is a concern, you know. And is this, you know, is there somewhere where you think we can, you know, companies can find some information to feel a bit more confident when it comes to digitizing their business?
So I would say anything to do with cybersecurity, that there are lots of really small boutique cybersecurity specialists and freelancers that support SMEs. Go to somebody who knows what they're talking about. You can go online, you can find loads of information, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right information. And again, what I would say is the things like that is tap into the support, the government's funded support that is out there from organisations like the Business Growth Hub.
Thank you. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit before about the value proposition, and so when it comes to, for example, the vision, the mission, and the values, how important are these when drafting your business growth plan?
They're essential. And again, what's been really interesting is that, because I obviously speak to the other mentors, is that a lot of businesses think, oh, mission and vision, it's got to be some big corporate 2-page thing. It's not. The mission is what you do, how you do it, and who you serve. The vision is what's happening in the future. What do I want to be? What does my business want to be in the next 5 years? And again, looking at what your purpose is, what's the core about why you do what you do. The values, again, there's loads of exercises that you can do around looking at your values. Most SMEs, the values originally are the values of the founder. And interestingly, the businesses that I think there was only one business that I came across that actually everybody in the organization knew what their mission was, and they knew what the vision was, and they understood the values, because they weren't complicated, they weren't reams and reams and things, and it's the thing that your staff and you as a founder and your customers live and breathe. And again, with the great thing is, about the program, is that we help you and support you to do that. And some of you will have started with a mission, and your business has slightly changed or slightly tweaked. And do you know what? That's okay. That's what happens. I think that can be a positive thing. But again, the values, a really good exercise to do if anyone's struggling with this is think about what you would like other people to think about your business when you weren't in the room. Okay. And then on the opposite side of that, think about all those words that you wouldn't want somebody to say about your business. That's a really good exercise to do. And the vision thing, I think, is that's what you're looking forward to for the future, and that gives you drive, and again, that gives you purpose as well. Okay,
perfect, thank you. So having a look now a little bit about the how. So what's the best approach when it comes to putting together a robust growth plan? Where do you start? And of course, you mentioned the value and the mission and the vision, but what are there any other key considerations that you would take into account as you're putting it together or starting?
Do you know what? There are so many things to take into consideration. Just quickly, I just put in the Google Ventures methodology just in case anybody wanted to have a look at that. Yeah, there's loads of things to take in. I think that the first thing you need to do, and again, when you're going on a program which gets you to think really deep into how you do things, and again going right back down to basics and saying, okay, if we start with your value proposition, for example, if somebody wants to find you online, is it easy for them to find you? Okay, is it really clear on your website what you do? Is it clear in your messaging, in your marketing messaging? Or if, for example, you bumped into somebody at a networking event, can you say in one sentence exactly what you do? And I think sometimes it's about starting right back down to basics. It's looking at every part of the business. And this is the really interesting thing, because I've worked with so many different types of businesses. Like one of the current participants, he doesn't have his own business. He is a project manager in a really big business, and we know that actually some of the decisions that he would like to do and implement as part of the growth plan, he can't make those decisions. So actually what we've done is we brought in the CEO, we brought in the marketing, because the questions, it's about asking those questions. So for example, if if there is a really clear thing that's glaringly obvious about what you could do as part of your growth plan, and if it was really simply just marketing, you know, who's going to be responsible for doing that? Is it something that you have the capabilities in-house to do? Is it something that you would want to outsource? And actually, if it is something that you are outsourcing, again, making sure that actually, you know, somebody can speak with your tone of voice. You know, most people think, okay, well, what's the tone of voice? Well, that's how you want to come, as that's the personality of your business. And making sure that actually, you know, if you are going to be doing something, that everybody has a part to play and everybody's got a responsibility. So I think really it's about opening your eyes up and seeing what parts of the business that you think, and again, making sure that you're including everybody in this conversation, what parts of the business are the things that we need to change, or we need to adapt, or we need to invigorate. Because another really big thing that I've seen is fatigue. Fatigue in a business can be the death of a business. It can be, you know, the fact that actually you've lost your mojo. You've had, and again, this can be a founder. This can be the senior leadership team, and it's about looking, I suppose, outward but inward. And I think that the really interesting thing is when you're having things like peer mentoring and you're discussing how other people do things. I think there are some learnings there, but I think you need to look at every part of the business: people, customers, looking at the finance. So it's all well and good having like you know, really great ideas about how you're going to grow, but have you got the funding to be able to do that? Looking at the processes. So are your processes and operations working right? Looking at the risk associated to absolutely everything that you're doing. And then, you know, some things, some businesses can't just grow organically. Some businesses have to go because they've either done a strategic partnership with another organization, or they've done a strategic acquisition. And then again, it's looking at things like technology. So if you are using technology at the moment, is it working? If you're not using technology, how can you use technology, not just for the sake of it, but something that is going to have an impact, and it's something that's going to, you know, fundamentally change and give the business that edge that you can serve your customers better. And again, you know, just going back to the customers, I think the customers are number one. So it's looking at, like, you know, if you are growing, are you putting the customer's needs and desires first? Because they can be your competitive advantage.
Okay. So we have actually quite a follow-up question from what you've mentioned in the chat about, and yeah, it's in relation to the outbound kind of, I guess, business development activity. And, you know, is cold calling, emailing dead?
Do you know what's really interesting? So I've got a colleague of mine who with GSI, and she's working with a business at the moment, right? And this guy is a techie. So he is a solo founder. He's just taken on a couple of members of staff over the last 12 months, and his business is growing. And he's working with her to do it. And he's absolutely terrified of picking the phone up. And I think because of email and everything else, people are. I don't think it is dead. But what I would say, and I'm putting myself in these shoes now, if somebody just rang me up out of the blue now and I didn't recognize the number, I probably wouldn't answer it. So it's about doing things in a slightly different way. And I think, you know, you've got like, yes, you've got the inbound, but I think there's other ways that you can do outbound as well. And again, just thinking about inbound customers, there are so many things you can do on the marketing side with a very low budget, actually, to bring those customers in. But yet, I don't think that cold calling and emailing is dead, but I think there is a way that you should and could do it. I think, you know, certainly, and I'm going to ask everybody actually who's on this call, what happens when you connect with somebody on LinkedIn and the first thing they do is they try and sell you something? How does that make you feel? And that's an open question to all of you, because I know I don't like it, but I'm not everybody. So how does it make you feel? And then you've got to think, let's have a look. I always answer phones to salespeople as they could be, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Roles, I don't like it either. Again, what you've got to think about, and again, I think this is a really important thing, is you have to ask your customers, your current customers, but also new customers and your networks, how do they want to be sold to? And I think sometimes you've got to think of it in a creative way. So I think for me, people buy from people, obviously, but I think that there are ways that you can do, you know, even things like this. So for example, if you are an expert in your field and you are confident about talking in public, go on a panel. Go on a panel, and there's loads of ways that you can do that. Start writing about what you do. Look at opportunities for PR. You don't necessarily have to have a PR company to be able to get PR opportunities. Any of you on Twitter, there is something called this, and I'm gonna show you really quickly. It's called Journal Request. If you put it in the search bar and then click on latest, it will give you a whole stream of journalists, whether they are print, magazines, radio, TV, you name it, blogs, everything. You have to click on the latest, because if you just click on the other ones, it will just come up with old stuff. They're very, very reactive, and they're always reactive to what is in the news. So for example, obviously the news this week is about Rishi and Javid resigning. Okay, if you had an opinion as a business and it was appropriate, you could make a comment about that. And I can guarantee, and this is why it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that you're keeping up with industry press, okay, and also about what's going on in the wider world. Anything that's related to your business, you need to be jumping on it. And I think there are creative ways that you can do sales, but certainly, to go back to the original question, no, it's not dead. Phones, emails, they're not dead, but you've got to think creatively, and you've got to do it in a way. So I always say, you know, if you looked at your emails that pop into your inbox, think about even what you put into the email subject line, because again, that can put people off even opening it. And just think about the words that you use, keep it short and sweet. And, you know, I think another thing is, you know, if you're using LinkedIn, for example, and there's a particular type of customer that you want to go for, and you've identified those customers, start having conversations, start commenting on their posts. Try and open up a dialogue like that, rather than just going full in, sending them an email, a cold email or a LinkedIn. Try and warm them up first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your advice on that. And when it comes to, so something that you mentioned a little bit before, and I think you have touched upon this, but, you know, let's say I'm a company from an industry that potentially hasn't been known for adopting technology, or as a late adopter, let's say. You know, how do I know which technologies are for me, or where to kind of put my limited funds if I don't have much money to pay for all of these subscriptions and technologies and softwares? Where do I start? And yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but Help to Grow also have a digital offering, and you get I think you get a contribution of £5,000 from the government. Again, you need to check this, towards technology. And what they do, this is all about finding what's right for your business. And again, I think I would be looking at recommendations from other businesses that are in your sector and seeing what technology they use and testing it, making sure that you get the best value of money, but you get something not just for the sake of having technology, something that's going to work and serve the purpose that it's supposed to do, and something that is, you know, is not going to be out of date in the next 12 months. I think again there is loads and loads of support out there, and I think it's your responsibility to do your homework. It's very similar to like going to buy a car or buy a house. You know, you're not just going to buy a car without doing your homework. It's the same thing with technology for your business, and it's having the technology that's right. I think one thing, and I think this is something you've got to think about. So one of the people that we had was a construction company that I was working with on the Help to Grow program last year. They had an accountancy package, Sage, that they were using, but they weren't using it to the best of its ability because they didn't know how. So again, making sure that actually looking at the technology that you already have, could you use it in a better way? could you, if you are using Sage, for example, and again, just by giving this, but I'm not a Sage expert, but just giving them a couple of tips. And what you will find is that a lot of the technologies out there that are supporting SMEs, have lots and lots of information. So for example, if you're using a CRM system, or you're looking at integrating a CRM system, does it talk to everything else that you've got? And is it easy to use? Because actually, one really big thing that I also see is people bringing technology and not including their staff in making that decision, and then the staff not wanting to use it because it's too difficult to use, it's too difficult to onboard, and actually the staff haven't been asked about it. Massive, I don't know whether you saw this, Capita did a piece of work for GM Police a couple of years ago, right? Do you know what? They didn't include the police, and they spent, I think it was 20 million quid on creating some software that would make all the other softwares talk to each other. It didn't work. And they didn't include the police in the decision or the design phase at all. So I think one key thing I would also say is, as business owners, please don't just rush in without talking to your staff about the technology that you're considering, because they're the ones that are going to have to use it as well.
Okay, so something kind of, I guess, linked to technology is, and this word is, thrown around the room, is the word innovation. And, everyone loves to use it.
Yeah.
Some people use it, not really know exactly what it means, but
yeah.
So what are the different forms that innovation can take, and, how really is it important to a company's growth?
Do you know what, right? If you look at what yes, the word innovation is thrown around. Have a look at that, and please, we will follow up, and I'll get Richard to share this, because I've just put in the Google Ventures methodology, right? That is innovation is essentially coming up with new ideas to either solve a problem or make something work better. Okay, and one mistake that I see again as well, and this is why more and more businesses are using this methodology. Is it okay if I just share my screen really quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, so let me just share my screen quickly. I'm going to just share something with you. So this is Google Ventures methodology. If you can see here, look, most people go idea, build it, spend a load of money, launch it, and then they learn. What this is, it's idea, learn, and then when you've learned and you've tested, you then build it. It's like cutting out all of these things, and actually it's really simple. It's about that, there's loads of information, but it's basically looking, okay, what is the problem that we want to solve? Okay, being really clear, and actually it might be that you have to do this several times, but what problem do we want to solve? Okay, then looking at that problem, why do we want to solve it? Are you making assumptions that you think, okay, we want to solve this problem because, so let's just, for example, I've got this mug here, right? And let's just say I'm making the assumption that actually I think it would look better if we remove the handle. Okay, but I'm not going to talk to my customers. I'm just going to remove the handle, and then said customer then buys the cup of the coffee without using the thing, and their hands get hot and they don't want to hold it. Okay, so this is also about looking at what the problem is, who's the buyer persona that you're solving the problem for. So again, it might be that you've got a certain type of customer that you're particularly, and it might be an internal thing. So who in the business, if for example the problem's got to do with accounts team needs to be part of this process, and it's about setting the stage, it's about finding the right challenge, and you can, this is like the 5-day one, but you can actually do this in 2 hours. It's about why, looking at what the why is. It's about understanding the problem. It's very much about looking at, okay, how can we improve it, not just coming up with a solution straight away, but doing some research around what that problem looks like, and then sort of unpicking it. But this, I would say, if you are looking at how to come up with new ideas or how to innovate, I would thoroughly recommend that you learn how to do things like design sprints, or go to somebody who is perhaps there's, again, if you just put into Eventbrite and things like that, there's loads of classes about how to do it, but actually learn how to do it. And innovation is simply, it's a sexy word at the moment, but actually you do it all the time. It's about how you can change things, how you can tweak things, but it's about defining what the problem is in the first place and whom you're solving the problem for. And that's what a lot of people don't, they forget about that. And it's about testing it as well, all the way along, and testing not only your ideas, but your assumptions.
So if I'm a company that's, followed a process and, is innovating correctly at all different levels of the company, how would it look like? What would success look like in that sense? Is there anything that you can say, okay, they're doing it right?
Oh, ultimately, are you making any more money?
Right.
You've got the bottom line. Are you making any more money? Are things working better? I think, are your staff happy? Are your customers happy? I think they're the things that you need to look at. But what I would say is, if you're looking, innovation is all about ideas. It's all about ideas. It's about looking at, what's not working, what is working, how can you tweak things. It doesn't need to be massively dramatic, but it's about testing it all the way through and not making that mistake where you've wasted a load of money along the process. That's the biggest thing that I see is people don't have. This is all about communication. It's all about having conversations as well.
Okay, thank you. So before we move on to the final part, where we explain a little bit about the actual course and just present it to you, a little bit about the structure and just kind of show you some of the modules as well. I'd like to ask the audience if you have any questions for Naomi with regards to anything that we've discussed, or anything to do with creating a growth plan.
I'm just going to add something in really, really quickly. So if you are looking at a growth plan, have something that's really simple. Have something, maybe look at like 2 or 3 things, and date stamp it. Who's going to do it? Who's going to be responsible? Who's going to hold me accountable? And then have some time frames around it. And what's the outcomes that you want from that particular element of the growth plan. I think that's a really key thing. But don't overcomplicate it.
Well, I'm going to move on to the final part of this session. But if any questions kind of come to your head as we're going through that, we're happy to answer them after the final part. Okay, so just going to share my screen again.
Just one of the questions that I've just seen. So we're talking today about Help to Grow management program. There is a digital one, that's a separate one, and that's purely about technology. The growth one is really about helping you and supporting you to create a growth plan, but also making sure that you've got all the elements and your ducks lined up to be able to create that plan.
So just off the back of what Naomi was mentioning, so the Help to Grow management program, the next cohort will be starting on September the 5th. We've had 4 cohorts now go through. The last one literally just finished yesterday. So we had another group of companies which came out from all different sectors. And just to kind of explain a little bit about what Help to Grow is. So the government decided that, there's a lot of potential for growth within the SME sector. And they basically commissioned some of the leading business schools across the UK to really kind of drive this program into the local communities within where they are located. And the aim is to reach 30,000 businesses over the next few years. And so it's a 12-week program, and it is designed exclusively for senior SME business professionals, where they've seen that they can have the biggest influence within their companies. I'll explain a little bit in a second about the breakdown. It's not a 12-week full program, and it has been kind of put together so that it is flexible. We understand that you have busy schedules. So it really has taken on like a real world approach. So it's about kind of those case studies, looking at companies, looking at yourselves, looking at other companies within your group, and really kind of using the real examples, but also intertwining some of the key principles. you know, you may have studied an MBA or you may have 30 years working in a business, but things like technology change on an annual basis, marketing, marketing tools, how you engage with different audiences, and the audiences themselves, of course, you know, change. You know, so generations have different ways of viewing the world, and of course how you sell to them and how you engage with them. It's 90% government funded, and it's delivered by Salford Business School, so it's actually delivered internally. And the idea is it's a high impact for a busy schedule. So it's 50 hours, around 4 hours per week. And what some of the feedback that we have got is that companies have actually really benefited from just taking a step back, of course, and just taking a look at the company from a different viewpoint, and being able to make those changes that ultimately can lead to higher profit and more benefits further down the road. So you get 10 hours with your mentors, and you have a dedicated mentor that you work with one-to-one. Naomi has supported in the past this program, but these are the mentors change depending on the cohort. And the idea is that as you go through this 12-week program, you go through different modules, which I'm going to explain a little bit about in a second. And then you put together your personalized growth plan for your company as you're going through. So there are 8 facilitated online sessions, and then there are 4 practical workshops. So if you are located in a different part, not actually in Manchester or in Salford, then 8 of these classes are online, and the 4 case studies are kind of split out throughout the 12 weeks. And it's good to kind of, I guess, get out of the office and actually speak and actually meet your colleagues face to face. And then there are peer-to-peer learning sets where it's really driving that kind of engagement amongst your peers and that exchange of knowledge and best practices between companies from different industries. So just some of the key business outcomes. I believe I just touched on some of these in the previous slide, but yeah, of course, as we mentioned throughout this thought leadership session, the idea is to create a growth plan which is tailored to your company. We review some of the key business areas that we went through: innovation, your mission, organizational design, also digital adoption, and really looking at how you can make some changes to benefit, of course, the bottom line and how your company is operating. Yeah, the exchange of best practices and ideas with other senior business leaders, so like-minded individuals, but perhaps from different backgrounds, from very different companies and industries. Boost innovation, which we mentioned as well, and perhaps refresh and acquire new management skills and techniques. Of course, you know, these changed as we move forward into the future. Different generations require different management kind of techniques, and of course, it's really interesting to take a look at this and see, oh, actually, I may have been doing this wrong for the past 10 years, or actually, you know, I have this right, but perhaps I can make this better. Yeah, you address issues which are key to your business. So every business operates differently. So it's very, you really get to kind of drill down to some of the kind of nooks and crannies of how your company is set up. And of course, just skipping to point 8, you take a step into the university enterprise ecosystem. So the cohort that just basically finished yesterday, you know, I had somebody come in from the careers team because there's the opportunities for, you know, funded students that can be placed into your organizations. And often, you know, companies don't know that, you know, universities do a lot. They do a lot of things with business, and whether that's student insertment, or whether it's kind of for some larger companies, you know, we can even work together to come out with some research, which is, you know, to address a specific business issue that you have within your company. So there's lots of things, and I guess taking part in a program like this, it really gives you that foot into the door, and we will, you know, we will knock on the door with opportunities that are only going to benefit your business. We are a public university. You know, we in the long run, our aim is to help companies within, you know, the Greater Manchester region and the Northwest and beyond, and basically benefit the economy. So some of the eligibility requirements: so you need to be an SME with an office based in the UK, with a presence in the Northwest. So you could have you could be based out of London, but if you have an office in the Northwest, then that's also fine. Have between 5 and 249 employees, have been operational for at least a year. And the person taking part has to be a senior leader within your company. Now, this is kind of up for discussion as to how this position, for some of the larger companies, so the more medium-sized companies, perhaps, it could be somebody from middle management. For smaller companies, it will probably be more director level. And that has generally been the kind of theme of those that have taken part in past cohorts. So they have tended to be director level, but that is open for discussion. And we understand that this can it can benefit many positions within a company. So it's open for all different positions: operations, finance, marketing, business development, managing director, all of these different areas. Just some idea of some of the past industry sectors. We have literally had every type of company you can imagine. We've had manufacturing, construction, we've had transport companies, cake companies, safe making companies. We've even had hospitality as well take part, education and training. All different sectors have taken part and have benefited greatly from this program. So just having a look here at the course structure, and I don't want to scare you with all of these kind of green blocks, but it is kind of broken down into manageable chunks over the 12 weeks. And a lot of these themes are the ones that we addressed within our discussion. And these are some of the key outcomes that you get from the course. And as you're putting together your growth plan, you start to integrate these into the plan and how you basically how you can basically make changes within your organization. So it's broken down into 4 sections. The first one is kind of looks at more strategy, growth and innovation, and you're looking at the digital adoption, perhaps winning new markets. That could be in any context. So you could be a company that is just starting to do business outside of Manchester or outside of the Northwest and looking to expand into other parts of the UK. Or you could be already doing a lot of business in the UK and you're looking to export, or you're looking to enter new markets internationally for the first time. It's all within the context and how you and how your company is at that point in time. You also have the second part, engaging with customers. And as Naomi mentioned, this is obviously very key to your success. Making sure your marketing strategy is matched up to your operational strategy. And of course, as Naomi mentioned, the importance of the vision, mission, and values, taking a step back and looking just to make sure that those are set up and that you have buy-in internally from the rest of your company. Part 3 looks at kind of the organizational structure. So how are you engaging with your employees? Do you have a high turnover? Is there some way that you can make sure that you're keeping them engaged with you and your company? And how can you as a leader, either within your team or as the company as a whole, how can you lead that change? How can you structure your company also to make sure that it is performing optimally as well? And finally, the part that looks more at the kind of efficient operations, the finance, and then module 12, which is the one that actually just finished yesterday in the current cohort. We have a cat. It's implementing your growth plan. So at that point, you will have put together your growth plan. And it's all about, okay, then how am I going to put this into force now? So just really quickly, I want to go through a couple of case studies. And basically all I want to highlight here is that, you have one company, which is, the smallest number that we can accept on the program, 5 employees, relatively new, operational for 8 years, very niche in its sense that the work it does with acoustics and based in the centre of Manchester. And this is basically her outcome. She said, they've created a growth plan that's going to go, that's going to support them going forward, and that she really saw that it was of great value to her. And then basically a different company, completely different profile outside of the centre of Manchester. So it's based in in Holmfirth. 32 employees, operational for 31 years. So completely different profile. Might actually be a family business that's kind of been passed through, and they've also looking at how to implement technology, and they've seen the value of it. So just wanted to highlight that different companies, different industries, different sizes, and they've all got something out of it that is unique to them. So just a quick look at the course fees. As I mentioned, it's 90% funded by the UK government. So the original cost was £7,500, and the final amount is £750. And if you're a company with 5 to 9 employees, you're allowed 1 person on the programme due to the high level of government funding. And then if you have between 10 and 249 employees, you are allowed 2 people to participate on the programme. And that could either be 2 directors or 2 managing partners, or it could be a managing partner and somebody who runs the marketing or the business development. You decide where you think you can get the most value out of that for your company or organization. So I'm just going to drop in the chat, but if you would like to get involved in the September 5th start, you can find on the website, and there's also in the yellow drop down part, you can actually see the dates of the different courses. They'll be on a Monday next for the September 5th start. And you can find also some other nice case studies on there as well. There's a video of one of the past cohorts, and you can just read a little bit more about the program. But I'm just going to drop really quickly in the chat as well the information so that you have it. I can find my Explorer. Here we go. So the first one here is the registration link, and then the second one here is the link where you can also find some bit more information and also the dates about the start of the program. And I will follow up with this also with the recording so that you can look back over it if there's anything that you want to discuss. And yes, I will be sharing the slides, and I will share. So I'm just going through the chats now. So I will share the recording, and I'll also share the slides. The mentors are actually they're business growth professionals, and they come from a group of mentors which are engaged nationally to take part in the program, and they all have lots of experience working with SMEs with different industries. And what we try to do is we try to look at the experience that they've had in different sectors and make that match so that they can give you the more bespoke advice depending on that industry. So I guess just before I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, I would just like to ask if you have any questions whilst we're here online, whether it's for Naomi or whether it's for myself. And yeah, we have a couple of minutes left before we need to finish. No. Naomi, any last words? Any last comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, I think I've put in a couple of things in the chat before. I think it's something. What's interesting with this program is it takes you out of your comfort zone. It gets you to think about the business, and there are so many different types of businesses. So, for example, I'm just seeing in the chat now, someone just put, "I run a local roofing company. How can this course help me?" We've had loads of construction companies on the program. Again, I think what you need to ask yourself is if you want to grow your business, because this is specifically about growing your business. So my question to you is yeah, the course can give you the tools and the methodologies to help you grow a business. But I think it's about asking yourself if that's what you want to do. But we've certainly had a very high proportion, actually. I think if we looked at the stats, Richard, you showed me yesterday, I think construction's #1.
Yeah, no, it is. And, they've come from all different sectors, whether it's like a company working, we've actually had roofing companies on the program before. I think one based out of Ashton. And we've had, companies which are dealing with the most obscure parts of a construction site, whether that's windows or whether that's the materials or transport. They've all got something out of it.
And I get what you say. You say I'm a roofer, not a businessman. I totally get that. And actually, the people that we had on the construction from the construction side of things, we've had a mix of people that have felt exactly the same. And I think the question that you need to ask yourself is if you do want to grow, this is a course that will give you all the foundations. But again, I think it's something that you can't always do solo. So you've got to have things in place, perhaps. So you know, loads of information. Have a look at the website. Somebody, Morag, you wanted to say something? Yeah, go for it.
I think I need to unmute you.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm also a marketing communications consultant, work with SMEs. And one of the challenges I could relate to a lot of what you said there is around with the social listening, being in touch with what's going on with your industry, and particularly when it comes to social, being, you know, just responding, and it's very kind of reacting to what's going on now. A lot of SMEs, in my experience, that you know, once every week or 2 weeks we'll sit down and go, right, this afternoon I'm going to do some marketing, and it is more of a mindset shift, I think, to have to be aware. And there's probably lots of content in lots of different employees' minds that could be used for social, but it needs to be kind of an ongoing thing, a daily thing.
Exactly. It's not something that you can
shift.
It's difficult because, Morag, like I said before, what's really interesting is that especially businesses that I've mentored, loads of them do no marketing at all.
Yeah.
Or if they do, they might have a little bit on social. And like, there's one company that I've been working with, and obviously I'm not going to say who it is. As a training company, and the company have Twitter, they've got LinkedIn, and they put the same thing on exactly both channels, exactly the same words, and it's all basically stuff about what they do. What they're not doing is they're not doing any engagement, because it's all well and good posting things, but you actually, if you're doing it properly, you need to have that engagement.
Absolutely.
And that's where you
listening, social listening.
Exactly, and that's where you get those warm leads. I think for me, it's got to become habit forming. You've got to get them to fall in love with it.
Yeah, that's my question. How do you get that mindset shift? And it's to go throughout the organisation rather than just the guy at the top.
Do you know what? I think it's about starting small, and like I said, trying to get them to fall in love with it. Trying to get them to think it's something that is part of sales. Yeah, it's part of the thing that they've got. It's business development. It falls into the same thing, and it's something that you've got to do. Because again, all these businesses I've come across that haven't do it, just switching it on and just changing a little bit of things, and then them getting the results. That's what wants to get them to do it more and more. Yeah.
I can relate.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you, Morag. There's just a few of the questions I wanted to answer. So. Firstly, when it comes to, there's a limit of 25 people per cohort, and these places are filling up. So we would say sooner rather than later, register your interest. To confirm your spot on the course, we do need to receive the payment for us to be able to confirm and concrete that for you. Just going back also to the question, you know, I don't feel uncomfortable, you know, I'm a roofer and I'm not a businessman and feeling comfortable with courses. Hey, you know, this basically, you know, there's going to be the content there is to support you, and it's not a pretentious, you know, atmosphere. Everybody has, you know, gone through different industries. They have from different walks of life, from different, you know, from different areas, different companies, different industries. And the idea is that it's an open atmosphere, and everyone's starting to learn something from this. So I wouldn't let that be a barrier to you. And we also have a question from SU with regards to a company that you did in 2009. I believe this was the leadership course. So I think that was more focused solely on leadership, and this is really more of a holistic approach to how you can create a business growth plan, and you're going to look at all different areas of companies. I believe that is the difference there. And yeah, I just wonder if there's any other companies, any other questions that you might have whilst we're still online. No. Naomi, thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Lovely to see you again as well. And thank you everybody for attending. It's been a pleasure. And any questions you have, you can follow up with an email after with me, and I'm happy to have a personalized chat over the phone, or we can set up 10 minutes on Teams, whatever. Yeah, we hope you get involved. So thank you very much, and yeah, wishing you a lovely day. All right.
Take
Thank
care,
you, Naomi.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.